time to go train. So excited. Yeah. So we're gonna have an inside video today. Hopefully the storm clears up so I can hit the gym later today, but I think for now this will have to work. And the topic I'm going to cover today probably lends itself to breaking out my handy dandy whiteboard anyways, so kind of works out. So I mentioned in my previous video that I think most people are training in a way that's not optimal to build strength, and that's what I wanted to cover today. So first, to kind of start at a very basic level, the way that your muscles work is they contract, they pull on tendons and ligaments, and that basically moves your bones. And the way that lifting works is we're having muscles contract against a resistance, usually weight. So you put a dumbbell in my hand and have me do a dumbbell curl. I'm contracting my bicep against the weight that is in my hand. That is what's going to stimulate growth. So there's a couple of different ways that that adaptation happens. There's isolation movements, which contract a single muscle group, such as just the bicep to bend the arm, just the tricep to straighten the arm, just the quads to extend the legs. Or you might see a compound movement like the overhead press, where your arm is moving up, which is a contraction of the shoulder, and it is straightening, which is a contraction of the tricep. You might see a squat, where the legs are straightening, which is a contraction of the quads, and also your hips are coming forward and straightening out that way, which is a contraction of the glutes. So an isolation movement essentially is the contraction of, well, you're isolating an individual muscle group, and compound movements are where multiple muscle groups are being worked. And so as we stress our muscles through resistance training, that disrupts homeostasis and causes our bodies to adapt to essentially restore the balance. And so the manner in which we disrupt it is going to dictate the manner that our body adapts. So there's a couple of different types of muscle adaptation. There's hypertrophy adaptation and strength adaptation. Hypertrophy is primarily an adaptation that leads to increased muscle size, not necessarily force output. And it's primarily achieved through volume work, essentially lower weight and higher rep ranges. Typically about 8 to 15 reps is what is optimal for hypertrophy gains. And you want the weight to be heavy enough to where 8 to 15 reps is going to be close to failure, but those are the rep ranges that you're looking for. Additionally, hypertrophy can be trained through either isolation or compound movements as long as they're in that rep range, because hypertrophy training is very non-specific. What that means is it doesn't really matter what exercise you're doing as long as it causes the particular muscle that you're trying to grow to contract. So for instance, if you're trying to grow bigger biceps, it doesn't really matter if you do a dumbbell curl or a barbell curl or work your biceps as part of a compound movement like a pull-up or a barbell row. Anything that causes your arm to bend, if you do it in a hypertrophy range and with sufficient weight to where that's close to failure, you should see hypertrophy adaptations or bigger biceps. The other type of adaptation is strength. Now, strength is defined as force output, essentially how much force your muscles can generate. And this is achieved by lifting heavy. You should keep low rep ranges for strength training, such as about 1 to 5 reps. If you can lift the weight for more than 5 reps, you are not lifting heavy enough to generate strength output. And strength is best trained with compound movements as opposed to isolation movements, because strength is highly specific, meaning you have to work the particular lift you are wanting to get stronger at, or something very, very close to it. To understand this better, we have to look at the drivers of each. So both strength and hypertrophy are stimulated by myofibrillar hypertrophy, which is essentially an increase in the number of contractile proteins within the muscle fibers. So there's more proteins that are contracting, you can generate greater force, and your muscles are a little bit bigger. Hypertrophy is also stimulated independently by sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is the amount of fluid in your muscle cells. So more fluid, bigger muscles, but it's not leading to greater force output. And strength is stimulated independently by neural adaptations. So some studies indicate that an untrained athlete is only able to recruit about 30% of the muscle fibers that they have when performing a lifting movement, whereas a trained athlete may be able to recruit up to 70% of those muscle fibers. So without adding any additional muscle mass, you can get a lot stronger by learning how to recruit more of those muscle fibers. That is a neural adaptation, and that is only achieved through strength training. So you can kind of take a look at your average online weight training program. It'll probably look something like this. They'll have the days laid out, and then each day will correspond with a certain body part. You might have chest day, leg day. It's even a meme at this point that friends don't let friends skip leg day, right? Because that's the one everyone doesn't want to do. And there's arm day, back day, ab day, or however it's broken up. This is a typical split that's given on those online weight training programs that most people are doing. And then most of them include things like 3 sets of 8 to 12 for every exercise. And you look at a specific day, you might see on chest day, it'll be like bench press, 3 sets of 12, and then dumbbell flies, 3 sets of 12, cable crossovers, 3 sets of 12, just something, that targets the chest, and it is in a hypertrophy range. That is because, like it or not, hypertrophy training dominates the fitness industry. Bodybuilders use hypertrophy because they need to get big muscles. They don't care what their max bench or their max squat is. They just have to get up in front of a judge, pose, and be judged on how good their physique is. Most people who start going to the gym don't really care how much they can deadlift. They care about going to their family reunion in the summer and looking good in their swimsuit. And while there's nothing wrong with looking good and feeling more confident with yourself and your body, that style of training does not contribute to strength as much as you would like. Of course, the problem is, because myofibrillar hypertrophy contributes to both hypertrophy and to strength, people will get on these programs and they might see a mild increase in their strength, and then they'll plateau out very quickly. So they'll think that what they're doing does contribute to their strength, and it's stopped contributing to their strength because they have reached the limit of their potential. So one of two things will happen. They'll either resign themselves to having a mediocre bench press or squat or deadlift for the rest of their lives, or they'll turn to PEDs to try and continue to drive that growth. When the reality is, they would probably be a lot better served by moving to a strength-specific program rather than a hypertrophy-specific program, and they're leaving a lot of pounds out there on the table. So here's how you train for strength. First, you're going to ditch the day plus body part layout and move to a day plus lift layout. So instead of chest day, we're going to call it bench day. All right? And then you're going to take your bench press. You're going to stop doing 3 sets of 10, and you're going to do 3 sets of 3 and make it heavy enough that on that third set, you could not do more than 3 if you tried. It's so heavy, that third one, that's it. If it's light enough that you can do more, it's not heavy enough, and you need to make it heavier. Then you're going to do a close variation of the bench press. For this example, I put incline press, but really it can be just anything that's close. Do something like 3 sets of 5, and again, go heavy enough that you cannot do more. You're now using strength rep ranges instead of hypertrophy rep ranges. And then you'll notice we've got dumbbell flies, tricep extensions, and front raises. Those are all isolation movements. Isolation remains in hypertrophy ranges about 3 sets of 10 because you are going to now work the individual muscle groups that contribute to the bench press, which is the chest, the front delts, and the triceps. So those, you still want to do hypertrophy work so you have more contractile tissue to drive up that weight. But with the specific movement and the close variations, you want to be in strength ranges to promote the neural adaptations, the muscle fiber recruitment, the motor units that are going to push and give you that force output. And as you get more advanced, you might get a little bit picky about your exercise selection to specifically address the weak points of your lift. For instance, if your deadlift is slow off the floor, you might choose your deadlift variation a deficit deadlift. Or if you're slow at lockout, you might choose to do rack pulls. If your bench press is slow on the lockout, but you're quick off your chest, your problem is your triceps more than your chest, so you might focus your accessory work on tricep isolation movements rather than chest isolation movements. So there's a few different ways to organize your strength training as well. You can go with PPL, push-pull legs. So that would be something like first a push movement like a bench press, then a pull movement like a deadlift, a leg movement like a squat. And you can do a 3-day split with that where you just do those 3, or a 6-day where you repeat those 3. You can do an upper-lower split where you might have a 4-day or a 6-day, but you alternate between upper and lower body movements, such as bench day, squat day, overhead press day, deadlift day, as an example. You can incorporate a strongman event day if you're training strongman. So there may be some oddball movements in a strongman competition that you're training for that you wouldn't be working year round, but you reserve a day to work those lifts as you're preparing for a specific competition. So for instance, on my current program, I do an upper-lower split for 4 days, and then I have a 5th day that's an event day. So I do deadlift, overhead press, squat, and then I do overhead press again because bench press is not tested in strongman. And then my 5th day is an event day. So that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you found this useful or exciting or helpful or interesting, please feel free to leave a like, leave a comment on the video, subscribe if you have not, and share it. I'm up to 4 subscribers last I checked. Thinking about maybe doing a 10 subscriber special, because honestly, if I get to 10, that's more than I ever thought this channel would reach. So super pumped about that. But anyways, this has been part 3 of my Intro to Strongman series. More to come, and I'll catch you in the next one.